Hello and welcome to another Overlord lore video, and as usual, thanks to my Patreons for supporting this channel. And if you want more videos about economics and finance in fiction, then please check out my second channel, Finance in Fiction, link in the description. Now, last time we have taken a look at how the Adventurer Guild makes money, and today we will explore why adventurer ranks, such as copper, gold or adamantite exist. And if you want to learn more and specifically about the Adventurer Guild ranks, I already made a video series explaining each rank in great detail. Now back to topic. One could expect that the guild, in order to protect humanity, only cares about results and not about the adventurers. After all, the New World is quite the harsh place, and lost adventurers are nothing too uncommon for the guild. On the flip side, who better to judge the strength of adventurers, the quality of their equipment, their knowledge, and their skills than the adventurers themselves? If a bureaucrat forbids an aspiring adventurer from slaying a goblin tribe that's currently nesting in his hometown, then grain and life could be lost. After all, he had already proven that he can slay goblins to himself by dealing with an old goblin that had sneaked into the barn a couple of months prior. But unsurprisingly, the guild doesn't follow this hands-off free market approach and is interfering with this particular job market for a couple of very good reasons. You see, every monster hunt is a calculation between risk of injury, loss of life, and that one thing Goblin Slayer tries to prevent, on one hand, and the handsome reward on the other. But rookie adventurers can't judge their own abilities in relationship to the monsters, and the guild knows that unnecessary loss of life will both weaken their ability to combat threats to humanity, as well as deter potential rookies from joining. Last but not least, the Adventurer Guild is an armed organization without state and noble oversight, and thus a steep increase of death and a decline of overall effectiveness would at the very least put them under close scrutiny, and thus newbies would have to prove themselves even more due to political pressure, not to mention that a decrease in adventurers usually leads to an increase of monstrous threats, which runs contradictory to their main mission, protecting humanity. Therefore, the ranks essentially state which risk-reward relationships you, as an adventurer, are capable of judging, because in essence, without prior experience, nobody can adequately judge their own risk-reward disposition. For example, while in our own world, return on investments are stated in percent, a rookie investor won't know that 2% might just be treading water with inflation, that 7% on average are solid gains, that 15% symbolizes a very high risk-reward relationship, and that 200% gains per annum are a telltale sign that something is very wrong. Remember BitConnect? Somebody with no money does for sure. And it's the same with adventurers. A fresh copper adventurer won't know the difference between hunting down an old goblin in a barn or rooting out a hole. To him and potentially his team, they are just goblins. But if the goblin nest offers 20 times the reward, the rookies might think to themselves that they are much better off with dealing with 10 goblins instead of just one goblin, since they get paid twice per head. But what he doesn't take into account is that fighting while outnumbered against a family hellbent on defending their young and their comfy place, where all the grain is stored, and leaving would just mean dying of starvation or freezing to death in the harsh winter, is on a whole other level than dealing with an old goblin that came into a barn to lick his wounds. So in spite of what animated nightmares like this would lead you to believe, a baby can't become a CEO of a company for the same reason a copper adventurer can't take on adamantite ranked requests. The guild turns what would just essentially be survival of the fittest into a meritocracy where any up-and-coming adventurers, no matter from where they are, how they fight, how strong they seem to be, or what kind of spells they claim to wield, have to prove their merit by repeatedly fulfilling quests and exceeding expectations. Only after thorough testing, a higher rank will be bestowed upon the successful adventurer, who then once again will have to prove themselves capable in order to rise again. For example, Momon did not only slay these goblins and ogres, he also subdued the wise king of the forest and made him his pet. and yet still only after he saved the guardsmen from an incredible horde of zombies and killed the local cell of Zurnorn was he awarded the rank of Orichalcum. Despite the clearing of the graveyard alone was above almost any normal Adamantite adventurer's capabilities, only after he dealt with the Basilisk and harvested ultra-rare herbs from an evil tree demon with so much HP that even Aura couldn't judge it adequately, was he finally awarded the highest guild rank. And last but not least, while the requirements are strict, there are ways around all of these restrictions for sufficiently skilled adventurers. Requests by name, for example. This, as you probably already guessed, means that a customer requests a specific adventurer because he wants to hire only this adventurer. Of course, an adventurer with the abilities of a copper rank wouldn't be famous or well known enough, and thus not requested by name for anything out of his normal capabilities. However, strong adventurers who had just taken up their profession are able to leave enough of an impression that they might be requested by name, and since they can't pick up any other high-paying job normally, these strong adventurers will have to sell their time under market value in order to prove to the guild and the requestee that they are indeed capable of what they claim to be, which is part of the reason why Momon could rise through the ranks so rapidly. And even Momon was only able to be requested by name because he tossed an iron-ranked adventurer through the room like it was nothing, and handed away a god's blood potion like it was nothing to him, which had led to inferior Baliar's request, since he and his grandmother were able to at least somewhat understand the scope of his strength, and because he wanted to learn more about the potion. Another option is to join or accompanying an already established group, in which case the higher ranking adventurers, who had already proven themselves, are trusted and expected to judge the abilities of these newcomers, and to take care of them in exchange for the time and the labor of the upstart. And even then, Momon received only the equivalent of a silver-ranked patrol and escort mission, with an escortee that won't run straight into hordes of monsters, which as far as I'm concerned is something fairly uncommon and straight out of a fantasy world. I wonder if egg quests are also easier in Overlord's new world than in the new world of Monster Hunter. Noise-cancelling headphones, as far as I'm concerned, should be the standard equipment. And fun fact, the Guild of Monster Hunter functions on the same basis as the Adventurer Guild from Overlord. And speaking of it, what has the guild gained from all of this? In essence, bankruptcy, aka the loss of an adventurer, would hurt them way more than a quest that had to be postponed for a certain amount of time, which in this analogy symbolizes a missed gain, and thus the guild can cut its losses for a bit less of a profit, which would be slain monsters. And if the adventurers are allowed to slowly level up and gain strength, then ultimately the guild would also gain way more this way than letting any newbie adventurer group on their own judge their strength and run straight into the next goblin lair without a goblin slayer. Last but not least, to stay alive is also in the interest of adventurers and workers, aka ex-adventurers that are working on their own without oversight or regard for the law on that matter, downright miss the ranking system since they have nobody to judge for them, and the only one who has grown old in a profession where people die young is Palpatra, who constantly sacrifices potential gains for the safety of himself and his group, and even he eventually made a big career-ending mistake. And yes, I also have done a video or two about workers, link as usual in the description. And with that said, thank you very much for watching, and special thanks to Al Capone, Andy, Angel of Death, Bad Guy, Boyzilla, Chrissy, Diabetic Centaur, Dystopia, Faily Skaters, Gigafight, Ghost of Epicness, Hector Moreno, Hoss, Jason, Kleinator, Chromius, Large, Lord Touch Me, Lord Ulbert Elaine Oddle, Matt C, Marcos, Mr. Shoes, Mindless Wrath, Minnow 13, Mirtis, Primus 11, Sasuga 1 Sama, Sebastian, Serge, Sparkly Unicorn, and Vashor Guy. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, over and out.